In our group presentation, we will talk about services industries regarding international business and commerce. We hope you enjoy it. In the first part of the work, I'm going to talk about what is international trade and its importance for the United Kingdom economy, the UK trade partners, as well as its most imported and exported goods, and lastly, the UK's trade standards. International trade is the exchange of both goods and services between countries. Trading at a global scale gives consumers and countries the opportunity to be exposed to goods and services that are not available in their own countries or the ones that are more expensive domestically. International trade has had a positive impact on prosperity in the United Kingdom and around the world for not only producers and consumers, but also for importers and exporters. Trade is a key to growth and has always been an important part of both UK and the world economy, as international trade is linked to many jobs and it can lead to a growing economy. Trade enables countries, firms, and also individuals to specialize in economic activities that stimulate greater business efficiency and higher productivity, sharing innovation across the globe. Since the referendum in 2016 and after Brexit, the UK government set out its strategy to strengthen ties with countries outside the European Union, such as China, India, the United States of America, Australia, and New Zealand. The UK's economy is dependent on foreign trade, and because of its dependency, the country has no significant trade or investment barriers and few restrictions on foreign trade and investments. The trade of the British pound and state of the United Kingdom's economy has made the country an attractive investment area for foreign investors. In a way to attract foreign businesses and foreign investment, the British government has adopted a variety of programs. For instance, the Parliament allows local and regional governments to establish enterprise zones. In these zones, companies receive exemptions from property taxes and reimbursements for costs involved in the construction of new factories or business locations. These inducements may be extended for up to 10 years. There are also programs that provide incentives for companies to locate in economically depressed urban areas that are known as assisted areas. There are 7 zones in the United Kingdom that allow goods to be stored for shipment without tariffs or import duties, and these 7 free zones are Birmingham, Liverpool, Sheerness, Amberside, Southampton, Prestwick, and Tilbury. Trading partners' growth and relative income levels have a strong effect on domestic growth. As we can see in these next 2 images, the UK top 5 importers in goods in 2021 were cars in first place, followed by medicinal and pharmaceutical products, gas, then non-ferrous metals, and crude oil in the last place. For the UK top 5 exporters in goods in same year, we have also cars in first place, followed by mechanical power generators, medicinal and pharmaceutical products, crude oil, and lastly, not ferrous metals. When talking about UK's trade partners, we have for importers China in first place, followed by Germany, the United States of America, the Netherlands, and then Norway. For importers trade markets, we have the United States of America in first place, followed by Germany, the Netherlands, Ireland, and lastly France. International standards from the International Organization for Standardization and the International Electrotechnical Commission are the cornerstone of the World Trade Organization rules-based trading system. They are adopted through BSI as British standards to create a common language for trading partners that deliver simpler market access globally. The majority of British standards are international, actively worked on by UK stakeholders, helping to equip all businesses for international trade. Formed in 1901, the British Standards Institute was the world's first national standards body. The British Standards Institute is appointed by the UK government as a national standards body, holds the Royal Charter, and represents UK interests at the International Organization for Standardization, the International Electrotechnical Commission, and the European Standards Organization. The Institute helps improve the quality and safety of products, services, and also systems by enabling the creation of standards and encouraging their use. It represents UK economic and social interests across all European and international standards organizations and in the development of business information solutions for British organizations of all sizes and sectors. The Institute publishes over 3,100 standards each year, underpinned by a collaborative approach engaging with industry experts, government bodies, and trade associations, also businesses of all sizes and consumers to develop standards that reflect good business practice, protect consumers, and facilitate international trade.
So in this part, I'm going to talk about Brexit, before and after, some perspectives on Brexit, imports and exports, the UK trade with Portugal, and trade deals with other countries. The United Kingdom has a well-known history of international trade and has traditionally welcomed more foreign investors than most other jurisdictions in Europe. Despite economic and constitutional change, a diverse range of overseas companies and entrepreneurs continue to identify this country as an attractive place to conduct their operations. Key factors influencing this choice to do business in the UK are its strengths in innovation, research and development, its close links to many other markets, and the fact that, of course, English remains the most popular language for international trade. Before Brexit, the United Kingdom was automatically part of any trade deal that the European Union had negotiated with another country. At the time the UK left, the European Union had about 40 trade deals covering more than 70 countries. When contemplating the UK's future trade relationships with its trading partners, there is perhaps some comfort in knowing that for the foreseeable future, European Union laws take precedent over the UK laws. The main argument for Brexit was that the UK now has the freedom to trade as it sees fit, by making deals based on the domestic economic requirements of the nation, not that on the European Union member states. Post-Brexit, many campaigners advocated that the UK would benefit financially, as there would be no more membership payments or bailouts, and that the nation's prosperity would flourish if it were no longer subjected to the red tape of Brussels. On the other hand, some economics have argued that UK businesses will suffer outside the European Union. They believe that Britain could lose the power, influence and leverage it has enjoyed over the years, as other nations would put the European Union before the UK. Doing business with a collective of 27 countries is, after all, more beneficial than doing business with just one country. Barack Obama didn't think Brexit was a wise move when he was in the White House. It seemed that in terms of trade, there would be no more preferential treatment. Obama's view was that Britain breaking away from the European Union would cause the country to go back off the queue regarding US trade deals. Trump, on the other hand, believed Brexit is a good thing, continually making sportive statements regarding the US-UK trade relationship. Joe Biden, the US president, made it clear that he was opposed to the idea of Brexit, which has cast a shadow over the future of the trade deal between the UK and the US. China also has made supportive Brexit statements, saying it would respect the decision made by the British people. However, Beijing is worried of the implications of Brexit, as it could have a damaging effect on the strength of the unity of countries it regards as an essential counterbalance against the mighty US. What became clear is that most, if not all, trade agreements would have to be reviewed and renegotiated, and according to the Global Council, Britain will find itself severely dependent on relationships with its ex-partners from the European Union. Now I'm going to talk about imports and exports. Total imports of goods increased by £4.7 billion, 11%, in January 2022 because of increasing imports from European Union countries, while imports from non-European Union countries remain at similar levels to December 2021. Total exports of goods decreased by £2.5 billion, 8.7%, in January 2022, driven by a decrease in exports to European Union countries. Imports from the EU countries were £0.6 billion higher than from non-EU countries in January 2021. Non-EU imports were higher than EU imports for most of 2021, linked to the large increase in the imports of fuels in the last months of the year, and exports to non-European Union countries were £2.5 billion higher than exports to European Union countries in January 2022. Total imports of goods increased by £12.2 billion, 10.1%, in the 3 months to January 2022, compared with the 3 months to October 2021. Imports from both EU and non-EU countries increased during this time. Exports of goods over the same period increased by £3.6 billion, 4.6%, because of increasing exports to both European Union and non-European countries, with exports to non-European Union countries showing the greater increase. It continues to be difficult to assess the extent to which these trade movements reflect short-term trade disruption or no longer-term supply chain adjustments. However, the Business Insights and Conditions Service, BICCS, reports that 67% of exporters and 72% of importers faced challenges in late January to early February 2022, with additional paperwork, change in transportation costs, and customs duties, or levels being the top challenge for traders. This compares with 64% of exporters and 61% of importers reporting trade challenges in January to February 2021. Imports of goods in January 2022 were £15.0 billion, 46.2% higher than January 2021 levels, while exports increased by £4.4 billion, 20.5%, over the same period. As 2021 data were strongly affected by the COVID-19 pandemic and the end of European Union exit transition period, here you have compared them against 2018 trade data. Compared with January 2018, imports increased by £6.4 billion, 15.6%, while exports fell by £3.0 billion, 10.4%. Total imports and exports of goods increased in 3 months of January 2022 compared with the 3 months of January 2021. However, exports decreased by 4.8 billion, 5.6%, when compared with the same period in 2018, while imports increased by £12.2 billion, 10.1%. Now, the UK trade with Portugal in 2016 and 2021. In this image, we can see and understand better which goods the UK has traded with, in this case, Portugal. You can see that cars, mechanical power generations, road vehicles, other than cars, are the main goods. In 2021, the imports of goods were £2.637 million and the exports of goods were £1.256 million, while in comparison, in 2016 the imports of goods were £2.562 million and exports of goods were £1.257 million. Post-Brexit trade deals. The UK has signed 3 new trade agreements since leaving the European Union. The UK and Australia signed a free trade agreement in December 2021. This agreement will remove most tariffs on trade between the UK and Australia. For some agricultural goods, the UK market will be open to Australia more gradually. For up to 15 years, tariffs will be applied to some agricultural imports from Australia above certain thresholds. There will also be a general bilateral safety mechanism, in effect a safety net if the UK industry is seriously harmed by higher imports from Australia because of the deal. The agreement also includes trade in services, digital trade, and intellectual property. The UK citizens aged under 35 will be able to travel and work in Australia more easily. On February of 2022, the UK signed a free trade agreement with New Zealand. This is the second FTA the UK has negotiated since leaving the European Union. All tariffs on UK exports to New Zealand will be removed. Many tariffs on UK imports from New Zealand will also be abolished at the same time. There will be some protection for sensitive agricultural products. Tariffs on imports of beef, sheep, meat, cheese, butter, and apples from New Zealand will be phased out over transitional periods of ranging from 3 to 15 years. The agreement also contains a general bilateral safeguard mechanism, in effect a safety net if the UK industry is seriously harmed by increased imports as a result of the agreement. This agreement covers a range of other areas, including trade in services, government procurement, digital trade, and intellectual property. According to the government's impact assessment, the agreement is estimated to increase the UK's GDP by 0.03%. The third agreement is a digital trade agreement with Singapore that was signed in February 2022. The UK-Singapore Digital Economic Agreement is the world's most innovative trade agreement, covering the digitized trade in services and goods across the whole economy. As two of the most advanced digital trading nations, the UK and Singapore have reached a groundbreaking international deal that is deeper and wider than previous trade agreements covering the modern digital economy. This digital economy agreement covers areas such as open and inclusive digital markets, data flows, consumer and business safeguards, digital trading systems, financial services, tech partnerships, and some additional provisions. Along with conclusion of the core DEA agreement, 5 associated cooperation arrangements have been concluded between the UK and Singapore. UK-Singapore FinTech Bridge, DEA Digital Customs, DEA Cybersecurity, DEA Digital Identities, DEA Electronic Trade Documents, and Electronic Invoicing. The DEI is designed to guarantee online consumer rights, promote online safety, help protect businesses and society from cyber attacks, and prevent the abuse of intellectual property. Importantly, the DEI also guarantees personal data protection. Furthermore, the UK government has started negotiations for a trade agreement with other countries. Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnerships, CPTPP, is a trade agreement between 11 countries: Australia, Brunei Darussalam, Canada, Chile, Japan, Malaysia, Mexico, New Zealand, Peru, Singapore, and Vietnam. The UK applied to join in February 2021. Negotiations started in September 2021, and the government says it hopes they will be concluded by the end of 2022. With the United States, negotiations started in May of 2020, but an agreement is not expected soon. With India, there is no current trade agreement between the UK and India, but negotiations started on January 2022. With Canada, there is an existing trade agreement which largely replicates that which Canada has with the European Union, and negotiations for the new UK-Canada trade agreement were launched in March 2022. Other countries where the UK is preparing for trade negotiations are Mexico, Gulf Cooperation Council, that represents 6 states, Bahrain, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and United Arab Emirates, and Israel.
In this part of the work, I'm going to talk about what is changing now regarding the UK international business and trade, not only because of the pandemic, but also other impactful situations, including the current war in Ukraine. With all the situation and complexities around Brexit and the coronavirus pandemic, the last 2 years have been reported by many as most challenging times since the Second World War in the UK. However, the pandemic has so far had a greater impact on the British economy than Brexit. The fall in GDP, a decline in trade, the shelving or adjustment of investment projects, and so on. Brexit, meanwhile, has made trade and services-related operations more complicated, and final decisions in these areas will depend on further negotiations between the UK and the EU. As we know, the global economy has been impacted by the pandemic, and this has severely affected the freedom of international trade. With borders closed and workforces struck down by the virus, supply chains were affected and many businesses were forced to repurpose. The major problems were related to the cost of shipping containers had escalated, as well as air freights due to fewer air transport movements, which increased beyond the means of many businesses. Also, the lack of goods being imported had a detrimental effect on domestic trade, and the lack of materials imported to support production in the manufacturing industry, such as silicon chips, circuit boards, and certain raw materials, have all compounded the challenges to trade. On a more positive note, during the COVID pandemic, millions of consumers around the world have switched to shopping online, driving the development of e-commerce at an even more breakneck speed than before. The UK is the world's third largest e-commerce market and has been the transit station for e-commerce goods from Hong Kong entering the EU single market. And now talking about other impactful events on international trade, including the UK international trade. In March 2021, the blockage of the Suez Canal demonstrated the vulnerability of transport routes. Over 450 ships were awaiting to transit the canal, with some opting to take the alternative precarious route around the Cape of Good Hope, adding approximately 8 days to the journey. There were concerns that if the blockage at the Suez Canal continued, some firms would have to pay to order more goods and have them sent over by air freight, which would cost at least 3 times more. Also, the road transport network has been impacted due to a lack of hauliers available to transport goods between the UK and the EU and throughout the UK. There are many drivers approaching retirement age, and the Road Haulage Association estimates that up to 20,000 HGV drivers from the EU left during Brexit, and this added a crisis that left the country short of at least 90,000 drivers. Many European drivers also went home during the pandemic, and few ended up returning. When the UK was a part of the EU, hauliers could come and go with relative ease, but the additional border checks after Brexit has meant it has become more time-consuming and costly to drive into and out of the UK. Recently, we are seeing Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and this is impacting international trade and commerce all over the world, including in the UK. The sanctions imposed as a response by the UK and its allies could still have a significant impact on the UK economy,
especially in the key areas of direct link between the two countries, which are energy and other commodity markets and financial markets. Russia accounts for just 0.7% of UK goods and services exports and 1.5% of imports. The UK's biggest exports to Russia are vehicles and their parts, machinery and appliances, whilst imports from Russia to the UK were almost entirely comprised of oil and petroleum products and precious metals in 2019, which was the latest year with which the data was available and unaffected by the pandemic. Trade is likely to be disrupted as a result of the conflict for four reasons. The first is that firms will face logistical issues in getting goods to and from Russia because some shipping companies have already announced a stoppage on all cargo bookings to and from the country, with some exemptions for essential goods and other medical equipment. The second one is that sanctions include a ban on the export of dual-use goods and technology to Russia. The dual-use goods are those that have a military as well as a civilian use. Also, international businesses are already withdrawing from Russia due to reputational concerns, as well as the difficulties imposed by current and future sanctions. And finally, the imports will become significantly more expensive for Russian households and firms, ultimately reducing their total demand for those goods and services. The combination of these is likely to substantially reduce Russia's trade volumes, particularly imports, given that direct links between the UK and Russia are very small. However, the spillover effect on the UK economy is likely to be minimal. A far bigger problem for the UK will be the indirect effects from price rises and volatility in commodity markets, particularly the energy. The Office of Budget Responsibility forecasts inflation to peak at 9% at the end of 2022, which represents a dramatic update of its forecast in October 2021 that predicted inflation at slightly over 4%. The Office of Budget Responsibility predicts that the economy will grow 1.6% this year, down from their 3.2% October forecast. In other words, low growth and high inflation are precisely the effects the UK will experience. On the other hand, regarding the UK sanctions, the Institute for Government estimates only a minor impact on the UK economy. With these new measures and trade sanctions against Russia, the UK will now be imposing import tariffs and bans on over £1 billion of Russian goods, such as silver, wood products, and high-end products from Russia, including caviar. And this is the end of our work. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed.